you get very political environments like that where there's no kind of quantification of what one is doing superior work than others.
Yeah, I talked to Adrian Wooldridge, and he wrote some books on the history of meritocracy. And they're very, very interesting. He writes for The Economist. And that the idea of meritocracy is under assault now. I think the idea of merit per se is under assault. And what Wooldridge has done was look at how societies were structured in the absence of the meritocratic ethos. And so that's in the absence of a belief that there is such a thing as productive competence. And he talked about nepotism, which, by the way, psychopaths practice nepotism. They're not only selfish, they do differentially benefit their immediate kin. And hereditary aristocracy. So if you don't have meritocracy, and if your hierarchies aren't predicated on competence, you don't get a non-competitive utopia.
No, not at all.
Exactly. You get nepotism and this political infighting, and that is, like, it's no wonder that affected you, because that's absolutely toxic. It's just sickening, and it does produce a situation where the worst people torture the people who are competent for their competence. Yeah. It's really ugly.
Yeah, and when I came out of university, I went to University of Wisconsin, and I had, my degree in classics and literature, etc. I wasn't expecting this. I expected that the harder you tried, the better the work that you produced, the more you tried to, get results. That's what mattered, right? And then to suddenly be blindsided this, because nobody in our culture tells young people that this is what the world is going to be like. And that's sort of a lot of where this book came out of. I wrote it when I was 38, 39, so I was already a bit older. But your parents don't prepare you for this. Schools don't prepare you for this. University certainly doesn't prepare you for it. In fact, it leads you to believe the opposite. And so you enter the work world, and if you're entering a place more like what we're describing here, not like what you were describing in some of the jobs you had, you're blindsided. You had no preparation for it. Nothing prepared you for it, and you don't know how to react.
Well, if you're naive in that manner, two things happen.
And I was naive, yeah.
One is that you're much more likely to be exploited. That definitely happens. The other thing is you're much more likely to be traumatized, because trauma sort of occurs in proportion to how much of your belief it demolishes. And so if you have a too positive and too naive view of the world, and especially if you encounter someone malevolent,
they can really interrupt you. But before we move on to the next point, we noticed that a lot of you are returning viewers who have not subscribed. If you've enjoyed our content, subscribing would mean the world to us. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for us. Thank you for your support.
They can really do you in psychologically. Yeah. And they often will too, because, well, they have their reasons. And so.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember I had a job in journalism, and I wrote this article about Italy, and I thought it was a great article. And then the editor brought me in for lunch, and he was like having his second or third martini, and he started to tell me that, Robert, you're never going to be a writer. You don't have the discipline for it. You're just too wild. You don't communicate to the reader, etc. You need to get out of this business. It's not for you. It was very painful. And then in looking back at it, I think he had set me up for this. I think that he had kind of commissioned this article knowing that it was going to have some problems with it, etc. And that he was deliberately setting me up in this situation so that and I think a lot of it came from envy.
Envy is a bad one. And envy and resentment, man, those are corrosive. They're soul and culture destroying emotions. When I worked with my clients, we talked a lot about resentment, a lot. And I had kind of an axiom, which is, well, if you're resentful, there's only one of two things going on. One is you're whiny and neurotic, and it's time to grow the hell up and take some responsibility. Right. And so you got to ask yourself that. And the second is, someone is taking advantage of you, and you have something to say or do that you're not saying or doing. And so we try to sort out which of those it was. And then if it was that they had something to say or do to stand up for themselves, for example, then we just strategize like mad. So I had one client, for example, I really liked her. She was smart, man. Very, very, very competent, honest, hardworking, conscientious, diligent, attractive lawyer.
Yeah.
And she'd moved firms, and those firms can be pretty cutthroat. You know, they're full of prosecutors. What do you expect, right?
Right.
And one guy, when she went into the firm, basically swiped her biggest client through a series of manipulative actions.
Right.
And, you know, kind of lulled her into a false sense of security, sort of started to cooperate with her and then shunted her out. And then when she started to complain about it, he started distributing rumors that she had mental health issues and it was absolutely awful. So we spent about 6 months strategizing how to deal with him. And so it was successful, you know, and I love doing that sort of thing. It was such fun helping people who are being bullied by...
I do.
Yeah.
I do the same thing as well. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What do you guys think? Have you ever been tormented by someone of a higher rank who is less competent than you? Please leave your comment below. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for making it this far. If you like this video, you might want to share it with a like-minded friend. Thank you, and as always, stay blessed.